with your life. And so how do we find love after being so terribly wounded? And of course that it's in varying degrees, and I have had clients, of course, and patients that have had very disappointing experiences with their parents. They can be parents who are rageaholics, that type of thing. And the child, in one moment the child is loved, and then the next moment the parent does a 180, and it's very splitting. It causes a lot of splitting. She's in the good mode, she's in the bad mode. And then when the child creates the world view can be very split also. Basically, friend and foe. And of course, the world does not readily the world is not understood as either being your friend or being your foe, with you or against you. So that's the splitting that can occur. It's heartbreak. It's torment. It's being ripped apart by heartbreak, and it is the broken heart condition. If you're in this condition, it is not you exactly who is in it. The mind is in it, and you see your dilemma. The mind has organized a self-concept and a world view that is based on heartbreak. The value system also is being driven by that same emotional wound. That's why the preoccupation, the tendencies to get distracted occur there. And of course, you holding grudges and things like that can occur for many folks who have this condition also. There's also there's a loss of communion. Communion with, if you will, the spirit of life itself. We can be too distracted, too far away. That communion is very similar to feeling love itself. Love has a binding quality to it. It is not just an idea. It's also an event. And what can happen is that our communion with life, which occurs all the time, by the way, is not honored, not noticed. It is devalued by degree. And that's a communion being just going outside, looking at a beautiful morning, or some light shining after a storm, and things look very surreal and beautiful. You notice that life is in fact everywhere. This is the anima mundi, the animated life, the living world, and that you are a part of it. That provides a kind of a loop of validation with something that is beyond our cultural norms and ideas. And that experience is what can help us to heal. We need to know about it, and how we get there is, if you will, the trip, and the trip of healing oneself. And there are a lot of different perspectives towards life itself. Some people do consider it to be spirit or nature and or God, all valid actually. When we use the term God, however, this is no longer a very easy term to use because of the different models that people have with that. So we do bring in other terms to point to this communion experience that I'm currently talking about today, because this is the way back. What it is that we almost cannot go forward with actualization without reconciling the sense of belonging, feeling loved. There's a kind of a what's the use factor in there, because it's so important. In other words, it's so critically important that actualization is subordinated. We need to get through actually the necessary needs. These are needs that need to be met, and one of them is indeed belonging. And I'm sort of thinking about Maslow's hierarchy, Abraham Maslow's hierarchy, which suggested that belonging was very critical for a child before they proceed on to actualization. He did suggest that the next level would be to develop a sense of self-esteem, and before one can actualize a sense of confidence in yourself, perhaps. And well, how do we get it? Well, we get it through an exposure. We actually need to experience love to reconcile the situation, to have a reparative experience. Exposure to the absence of love is what created the problem. And the will to love is not sufficient. It does not work. The will to love is not equivalent to the exposure to love. One is it happening to you, the other one is the desire for it. But if it doesn't happen to you, the desire for it is not going to change the mind, because it's the mind, distinct from awareness, distinct from you. Your mind, the conditioned mind, the ideas that are the blueprint that you're working off of, is what needs to be adjusted. And the mind, by the way, changes by being persuaded. And we cannot will the mind to change. It actually has to have evidence. And so the path to recovery from this problem of ambition, a lack of ambition, this problem of not knowing what to do, it is a hopelessness, can be a depressive hopelessness, but does not necessarily need to be a depressive hopelessness. It can be forming as a kind of a procrastination. And again, I'm pointing to heartbreak. Procrastination and heartbreak are related. So here's where the spiritual, if you will, existential strategy is important. We do need to expose ourselves to people who are loving and wise, sophisticated, and not elitist, sophisticated, sophisticated, loving and caring. Even though we have problems loving and caring, we are emotionally wounded. Being in the company of a generous, non-judgmental, caring teacher or authority can be helpful. Why? The mind notices it and begins to identify with it by degree. It can end up identifying with it quite a lot, and you can recover much of your life, or recover your life. We cannot get rid of the emotional wound. However, we can change the way we respond to it. And this is what the process is. It is really to enter experiences that are indeed loving and caring, and allow the mind to be exposed to that, and allow the mind to adjust and to gain faith. Once again, it's the inability to trust. Trust is very related to indifference, a kind of a, when you put a seed in the ground, you cover it up, you put a little water on it, you trust that it will grow. You trusting life that it will grow, and you walk away. You don't dig it up and come back. It's a kind of a divine indifference about it. You've turned it over to a higher power, so to speak. And by the way, this is an excellent model for what love is like, and many of us do not know. Many of us who are wounded do not know what love really is, so we do end up creating these checklists. Well, if you take me out to the show all the time, if you pay attention to me, if you agree with me, if you buy me a birthday gift and not ever forget me, these are what love should be, and they are constructs, and people who have heartbreak and really don't know what love is exactly end up with these checklists. And of course what happens is that when one of the things does not, when the person that you are involved with does not pay attention sufficiently to you, you can kick up a lot of emotional feelings about that, and very often it is really the doorway for the relationship to break down. The relationship breaks up because of rigidity. It's rigidity, it's a lack of trust. You have to see that a check-off list is sort of like what you must do this, you must do this, you must do this, must do that, and then the person says, well, probably they love me. Get that idea? So here's the thing again, we have to not blame ourselves. This is a condition of nature, even though these check-off lists and that type of rigidity appears to be less than wise. It's because we were not exposed to Sophia, sophistication, wisdom, loving, and smart, and that's our circumstance. So the healing process, again, you used to have a communion experience, and I recommend, for example, many of us, I recommend teachers that are caring and loving. And unfortunately, when we have a worldview of a callously indifferent world, a narcissistic, self-centered world, there is a tendency to get chemistry with that type of world. It's one you know. So you end up possibly going to teachers who are elitist, narcissists, who have some element of condescension and conditional love. You have to be this way or that way to be loving, and if not, then what's wrong with you?